Hey there, I want to take a few minutes today to talk to you guys about how my thoughts on no-till have changed. So as you guys know, I've been visiting a lot more farms lately. I've been putting out videos about interviews and farm tours and stuff like that. And it's been really insightful for me, and it gives me a nice chance to reflect about my farming practice, because I get to see how a lot of other farmers are working their land, things that are working for them, things that are not working for them, things that are stressing the farmers out, things that have been successes, all that kind of stuff. And this is now my third season finishing up. I don't know if you guys all know that I've only been farming for 3 years, and 2 years at my farm and then 1 year here at Raleigh City Farm, and basically the same practices at both farms. So it's been interesting for me to have the two different contexts and how I farm in both places using sort of the same methods. And what I've come to conclude sort of at the end of this season, as we're kind of wrapping up here, we're in late September right now, is that I love no-till. My thoughts have got changed in only the way that I'm more confirmed about my beliefs in my farming practices. And I'm not gonna say that this works for everybody. There's definitely situations where this is not the right thing for everybody. And it also, this is about a year ago, I made a video about is no-till and organic. And I'll leave a link down below and also at the end of the video for you to check out. But what is no-till? Is this no-till? Is this broad fork no-till? How about the tilther? Is this no-till? How about a hoe? Is this no-till? How about a rake? Is this no-till? How about the furrow on a Jang seeder? Is this no-till? How about pulling a crop out of the ground? Is that no-till? How about using a tarp or landscape fabric? Is that no-till? So I've used chickens to prepare new ground for me. Is this no-till? And really the reason that I'm talking about that again today here is that last year when I was really talking about no-till a lot, people were really coming at me with really dogmatic practices that if no-till means you literally cannot till. And the hard part for me now understanding this more is that really no-till it's a hard definition because it's defined by a negative. So I think that really the start of getting into a no-till world is to stop tilling, of course. But you gotta remember that, there's ways that you can do all sorts of different things, and there are exceptions to the rules, and you can't be super dogmatic about it. And if you use a broad fork or use a tilther or whatever, the idea here are really those three principles that I've talked about before. Keep the soil covered, keep the soil planted, and disturb the ground as little as possible. And really we're trying to do that to maintain the soil health and biology. And so that's what's really important. So one of the biggest takeaways for me from visiting all the other farms lately is that everyone's weed pressure is at a different level. And the people that have very high weed pressure, it really stresses them out. And that sucks. Like, that shouldn't be something that should be bothering you as a farmer. And I think one of the biggest benefits that I've seen from this sort of deep compost mulch no-till system is that we really don't have weeds on the farm here, and we cultivate very little. And that has been a huge success and advantage for us on the farm, that we're not stressing about it. If you guys know you have a couple of beds or a block or maybe your entire field that's kind of overrun with weeds, it stresses you out as a farmer. You don't want to deal with it, you don't like looking at it, you don't want to show people it, all those kinds of things. And I think one of the most practical things about this sort of system is the weed control, and that's been a huge benefit because if you're in that lean school thought process or anything like that, where you don't want to be working on something that's not bringing value to your customers or bringing money into the farm, you really want to try to minimize that as much as possible. And I've really noticed that, and this is a time of year, like we're in late September here, where most people's fields have a lot of weeds in them because the weeds got away from them during the summer, and they're hoping to tarp things or maybe till it in the spring and that kind of stuff. But like, we're in great shape right here. We really have it under control, and it feels really good. So I always say context is super important, and not every farm can adopt these practices right away. And I know that some people have their systems in place. They have tools that they use. They have tractors. All their systems are designed for the things that they have going on the farm, and it's hard to just switch gears, or especially in the middle of the season when you're super busy. You can't just say, oh, we're gonna change up everything in the farm. But I really hope that you guys can start thinking about this, and maybe it's just one block at a time, maybe it's a couple of beds, maybe you start a few new beds next year and you do it in that way. But the biggest thing, guys, is get the weeds under control, and then either build beds on top of that, or plant into those beds if you've already formed beds, and don't disturb the soil. And you'll be amazed how much time you will save just in cultivating and weeding and the sort of the stress level that goes down. So I was planning on making this video anyways, and last night I had a live stream and someone asked me a question. So, you know, what were the big takeaways from visiting all these farms? And I always look at the soil. It always comes down to the soil for me. I look at, you know, the color and texture of the soil, how the plants are doing, how their food tastes. You can often tell by eating food. You're like, you know, people that have really healthy soil, really biologically active soil, the food just tastes better. And that's always a takeaway for me. I just like to see the soil practices and see what the soil looks like and the weed pressure. And that's really the takeaway. It's not like the infrastructure or cool tools, or, I mean, I obviously like cool designs and layouts and irrigation systems and all that stuff, but to me, it's always about the soil. And that's just a huge takeaway for me. And, you know, I had a conversation today actually with one of our board members, and she was interested in more of regenerative practices and sort of how no-till fits on the farm here. And I sort of explained some of the basics of why we do what we do, and it just clicked for her and it made sense. And it's really cool when you can explain that to someone and why you do things the way they do, because most people walk by our farm here and it just looks clean, it looks tidy, we got a lot of plants growing, but there's so much that goes on behind it, and it's like letting biology do its thing and keeping everything happy. So again, I couldn't be more in love with the no-till system. And just to clarify here, when I talk about no-till, I'm talking about a market garden situation with a deep compost mulch system, and, you know, not using any pesticides or herbicides or any synthetic fertilizers, any of that kind of stuff, because no-till can mean lots of different things in different contexts. So I'm just talking about it in this style here, and I hope to see more of you guys trying to implement this in the future. And I know it's only year 3 for me, but it's been 2 years at my farm and 1 year here, and I'm absolutely in love with it. And I feel like I've just confirmed how I feel about it, and I really will continue and try to help as many of you guys who want to get into this see that. So it's always good to reevaluate your farming practices and think outside the box. And for me, it's been great to visit other farms and sort of solidify my feelings about my farming practice, and I feel super positive about them, and I just want to share it with you guys. If you want to check out the video I did from last year, I'll put a link down below, and also after this video ends. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.